Hey guys, so my son, who is a junior, recently took the new enhanced ACT. The new ACT has less questions on it than the last one, and instead of 5 multiple choice options for each question, it now has 4. And now the science and the writing portions are optional and do not count towards the overall composite score. And there is also a super score, which means that if your child takes the test multiple times, then they will take the best score for each section and combine those best scores into their overall composite score. Now, not every college accepts a super score. So you'll have to check with the colleges that your child wants to apply to see whether or not they take it. Here's the book that I got for him in order to study for the ACT. And I could have gone with the big ACT official prep guide, but I thought that this would be good because it has video tutorials for each concept on each section of the test. And it had good ratings on Amazon, and I felt like the reviews for the big ACT official guide were good, but it was also mixed in terms of whether it was the best value for your money. I wanted to make sure that this was updated for the new ACT. However, when I went through it, I saw that it listed the old times for each section. For instance, English used to be 50 minutes for 75 questions. It's now 35 minutes for 50 questions. So I just had him write in the correct minutes and number of questions for each section based on what the ACT website says. And so it took him roughly 10 weeks to prepare for the test. The first week, he familiarized himself with the layout of the test itself and just general test-taking strategies. The next 8 weeks were spent roughly 2 weeks each on each section of the test: English, math, reading, and science. And he went through the concepts that the test would cover for each section and just reviewed and learned concepts that would be on the test. And then he took one untimed practice test and one timed practice test for each section. The last week was spent reviewing concepts that he was weaker in, and then he took the final practice test, which included all 4 sections on the computer. Now this was timed, and so it kind of simulated what the real actual test would be like. So he planned to take it in December, and the registration deadline for the December 13th test was November 7th. And he wanted to take it on the computer instead of the paper version, which is the Scantron. And so we signed up, I believe, on November 2nd. So we had enough time for before the deadline for the December 13th test. However, we did not realize that not every testing site offers the computer testing option. And so when he registered, all of the testing sites with computers that were close enough to us were filled up. The closest computer testing site at that time was an hour away. So having to drive himself an hour away to a location that he was unfamiliar with, really early in the morning to take a 4-hour test, that's a pretty big deal, just didn't seem like a good idea. So what my husband did was he drove our son to the high school, and they got there, I think it was around 7:40. The test started at 8 a.m. So that definitely was not ideal. It would have been better if he had taken the test at a location that was closer to our house. But it's what we ended up having to do because he really did not want to take the test using the Scantron version. And he's just not used to that because we homeschool. He has never taken a Scantron type test before. So when he showed up to take the test, they gave each kid a Chromebook to use, and he is used to using a Mac instead. Now we had told him that he would probably be taking the test on a PC, which would be slightly different than a MacBook. So he was prepared for that. But he did not realize that on a Chromebook, you have to scroll differently than you do on a Mac. So he was scrolling the wrong way in pretty much every question, which did end up eating up more time.
Hey, buddy. Hi. How'd the ACT go?
It was harder than the practice tests, and the English section felt more subjective than it should have been, but the reading section, which was really subjective on the practice tests, didn't feel as subjective as on the practice test. I didn't even have enough time to finish all the science questions.
Oh.
At the end, I was just hitting B for every one, but I didn't even get to the last question.
But he got a 22 out of a 36, which is pretty good for the first time taking the ACT, and it's higher than the national average. Now, he does want to take it again to see if he can get a better score. And this time he will be even better prepared for it. So that was his first experience with the ACT. It can be a really daunting process at first, but he got through it, and we did make the mistake of registering too late for a computer testing site that was close to our house, and ended up having to go an hour away. So learn from our mistake and register with plenty of time if your child does want to take the computer version of the ACT. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for more homeschooling tips and ideas, and I'll see you in the next one.